Hey guys, welcome to the channel. We're back with episode 10 of To Your Eternity, and things are finally heating up. Now, I don't just mean between Rean and Gugu, but that parasite thing that attacked Fushi on the way to the island, it's back. Guys, I'm excited to see what happens next, so let's just get right into it. As always, click the first link in the description below to watch the reaction video, but don't forget to stick around for the discussion after the video. Alright guys, welcome back. If you just finished watching the reaction, this is the discussion part of the video. And just in case you guys were wondering, I am actually recording this video a couple days after watching, so you guys are going to have to excuse me on that, but a lot happened in this episode, and I think it's turning out to be one of my favorites so far. We got to see the fight between the parasite Fushi and Gugu actually ended up saving the day using, some quick thinking with the fire and that, alcohol bladder in him, right? I still think that, given the situation, it would have been easier to make some Molotov cocktails or some kind of, alcohol bomb or whatever he wants to do, right? But he got the job done with his human flamethrower ability. That thing was actually crazy, though. He lit up the sky with that fire. But of course, despite saving the day, misfortune's always following Gugu around in some sense. It was just the worst timing for him, meeting Rean's family for the first time, just completely drunk because of that alcohol bladder and it rupturing or whatever the case may have been. But after that, we also got some interesting conversations with Fushi and the Maker, as well as, well, a nice little time skip for us too. I've definitely noticed that in a lot of these episodes, the Maker will usually leave us with a line or two to think about right at the beginning of the episode, or maybe in the recap before the OP, where it sort of sets the tone or the theme or, the topic of the episode. So the Maker says at the beginning of this episode, all beings in the process of living are met by those who stand in the way of their continued existence. Then he adds, the freedom to choose is a sacred thing that ought to be given to all. So immediately what I think about when I hear this is the Maker adding some philosophical background to the conflict between the newly dubbed Knockers and himself, or whatever group he is part of, whatever side. And the comparison being that the Knockers are here to impede Fushi in whatever way that they can, because I guess their ultimate goal, as he says, is to destroy this world. But it could be colored by this philosophical idea that the Maker believes that every life should be able to choose its own path. And perhaps the Knockers are part of some group that, want some sort of philosophical hegemony or one way of thinking, or maybe a collective hive mind. I don't know. But this idea actually comes back into the episode in different ways. So Fushi's been quite affected by these couple attacks from the Knockers. The Maker has a conversation with him where he suggests that he should move on because he needs to keep growing and learning and improving himself, becoming stronger, so that when the Knockers attack again, he will be able to fend them off. But instead, Fushi wants to rely on Gugu. The Maker basically tells him, yeah, you could do that if you want. That's definitely a choice. But he also seems to suggest that he's probably not making the best choice, but it's part of that philosophy that every being should be able to choose their own path. And then on a smaller scale, we also see that with Rean's situation when she outright tells her mother she wants to be given the freedom to live clumsily. Essentially, she feels that her parents aren't giving her the freedom to choose, which was part of the philosophy the Maker was extolling. But it was also interesting that they mentioned that they had already picked a suitor for her to, wed when she becomes older, which is definitely restricting her, freedom to choose, as the Maker might suggest. But getting back to Fushi's situation, it seems as though he's a little scared or just doesn't believe in himself. I guess these attacks on him have been a little frightening in the sense that he loses his ability to transform into some of the people that have influenced him. I guess getting his butt kicked this time especially has kind of made him a little timid. and he wants to keep relying on Gugu. I think this is an interesting development in Fushi's character because the preference to keep things the same, homeostasis, not wanting to change, is definitely a human tendency and a human characteristic. And we've been getting more and more hints from the maker that Fushi has been a little complacent as of late, playing human, as he so eloquently put it. But to move on and leave what you've learned so far behind in the pursuit of more stimulation, it's a difficult thing to do because the path he has come from so far has forced him to move on every single time. And I mentioned that before when March died. It would be good for Fushi because it forces him to move on. It would have probably held him back a little if he just stayed there and got raised by March. And of course we see after Parona tells him to leave, he runs into Pioran, who teaches him how to read and write, and then they travel away to this island that they're on now and have met Gugu. Ultimately, moving on and on has been a good thing for him. And in a way, he's lucky because it really has allowed him to expand and improve on himself, grow at such a fast pace too. But now that I think about it, there seems to be an interesting little pattern building up. Everyone that Fushi has met so far and who has, influenced him greatly, they have all had their impetus or their reason or some overarching goal behind their actions and what they're doing. And every subsequent person he runs into seems to fulfill the previous person's impetus or goals, but then also provides Fushi with a new impetus or goal. When Fushi met the boy's goal was to get out of the place that he was in, follow the footsteps of where his relatives had left, and explore the world, meet new people. And unfortunately, he died before being able to do that. Fushi was able to escape that situation, however, and met March. March was someone who had her own predicament. She was supposed to be sacrificed, but she was able to escape that situation. And beyond that, she actually got to travel to Yanome, albeit as a prisoner, and explore and see more of the world, which was actually the boys' initial goal. And though they didn't really do much exploring in Yanome, there was this one scene where they all went to a postal office and they got to see this map of the region that they were in and all the different villages and all the different areas, how big it actually was and how many there actually were. In the face of that boy's tragically unfulfilled goal, the story with March is now giving us, the audience, a taste of that goal being fulfilled. But March came with her own goals. Most notably, I think we all can remember, she wanted to be a mother and she wanted to grow up. And she wanted to do all the things that adults would do, right? But unfortunately, I think we know how that ended up. So Fushi is now in this situation with Gugu. Here I am thinking, okay, they're gonna fight this parasite. It's the perfect time for Gugu to get killed, trying to save Fushi, and then Fushi will be able to transform into Gugu from now on, right? But no, they actually subverted our expectations, or at least my expectations. Gugu lived, and he beat the parasite, and he actually saved Fushi, and now, at the end of this episode, he's grown up. The man has definitely been working out. Definitely can't call him a boy anymore, that's for sure. So that's where we are right now. I guess we'll have to wait and see if this little pattern keeps continuing. But I just thought that was interesting, especially since we got that little time skip at the end of this episode and we got to see Gugu quite a bit older. And surprisingly, actually, Fushi, that's another thing in this episode, Fushi aged. I'm not exactly sure what to think about Fushi aging. I'm not sure if that's just because we've never seen such a large time frame go by that we didn't know that he could age or not. I assumed that he wouldn't age because he's immortal. He just regenerates the same way every time. I wonder if it has something to do with how long he's spent in a different form, or maybe the age just accumulates over time. But would that mean that eventually he would become an old man and he would have to be sort of assimilating new forms to transform into? It seems kind of strange, but I'm definitely interested to see how they choose to explain this. But yeah, I think that just about does it for this episode's discussion. Can't wait to see what the next episode brings now that everybody's all grown up, I guess. If you guys enjoyed the video or thought it was worth sharing, feel free to drop a like or even subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing these discussion videos every week, and we're going to start doing some new animes as well. Also, if you guys had any comments or questions, just let me know and maybe I'll even work them into the next discussions. But other than that, I will see you guys for the next episode. Take care.